Yeah,
No, it's three.
the face, there are some, yeah, that are, the music is okay. Also,
Did I just have a hard time?
probably
Going back, yeah. Going back, I gotta play, that's right up.
right.
That's for your.
Like during the meeting, did that
Yeah.
during the commission.
I think that the only.
School site. On Friday. So, here's something, we're something on that out. I'm just happy it's more than zero.
Wait, this is like for hiring, like,
We're looking at hiring a teacher. It was a program. And pay that.
that's good.
There can't be that many in the program like third year anyway.
Yeah. So, I mean, well, there's something like this, hey, you guys do, you not have done it. Somebody in my program did, like, in that position, the other students. Right, we're all very jealous. I heard the city very loud, and I did on that, and then they told us a lot of say actually stay. That.
Is that sending you an email about that today? The.
About a couple more minutes or go ahead and start.
These need to be 10 minutes late.
Okay. Sure. Everybody a chance to finish by the take. Start. Go ahead. This work session for the Pleasantville School District School Board. This November 18th, 2025. We'll go ahead and start with pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So we're looking at some assessment tools that we've been taking a little bit deeper dive into the last month.
And then also a strategic planning application as well, so. As we go through, it's might be a good time to actually start to think about the equity lens and how it applies to some of these tools that we are looking at. So just a reminder, with our equity lens, we develop, how does this decision align with the vision and mission of the district? How have students, members of the community and or stakeholders been involved in this decision-making process? Who does this decision affect negatively? Who does the decision affect positively? What are the unintended consequences of this decision? What data will be used to inform the decision and how the outcomes need to be sustainable? Our mission, graduate all students high levels of academic personal achievement are ready for post-secondary excellence or prepared for productive, compassionate citizenship through research-based instruction and a collaborative system of support. All right, so first, purpose of assessment tools in education. Basically, four simple. So to support data-driven decision-making, that can be not only at the board level, but also at the classroom level. Track student growth and mastery, inform instruction, personalized learning, and then complement instructional goals with insights on student skills and cognitive abilities. One of the programs, or one of the first programs we looked at, was this Measures of Academic Progress, or MAP, by Northwest Education Association. MAP covers grades K through 12 in subjects of reading, language arts, math, science. Purpose is to measure growth over time, and it aligns with national norms. The testing for the frequency of the testing anyway, assessment is 2 to 3 times per year. And those tests are approximately 45 to 60 minutes per subject. Highlights of MAP is that it provides detailed growth data and predictive insights for standardized tests. So the predictive insights essentially are the test. They claim that the test, how the students do in the test, correlates to how they do statewide assessment. The next one we looked at was Renaissance STAR assessments, and then there's also grades K through 12 subjects of reading, math, and early literacy. They're frequent skill-based assessments for immediate instructional adjustments. They are 4 to 6 times per year, approximately 15 to 30 minutes per subject. Highlights are skill-focused, supports real-time progress monitoring, and they're also useful for response to instruction. Next one we looked at was IXL. IXL is also K through 12. Subjects are math, language arts, science, and social studies. IXL differentiates from the previous two that it is a skill-based practice gap filling diagnostic tool. They are ongoing in frequency and then typically 20 to 30 minutes in length. They highlight our targets, specific skill gaps, continuous improvement, and it is not necessarily looked at as a growth tracking tool. It wouldn't be something that we would give at the beginning of the year, middle of the year, and the end of the year to actually track growth of a student, starting kind of to an ending point. And the next one we looked at was called Mindprint for Learning. And this is really completely different. If you look at what Mindprint for Learning does. So this is a grades 2 through 12, and it measures cognitive domains. So a student's memory, their attention, processing speed as examples. So it evaluates cognitive skills for personalized instruction. Frequency is their annual diagnostics, and they're approximately an hour for each of the tests. Highlight is that it focuses on learning profiles, aids in differentiated instruction. So much different than a curriculum-based type of measure. So just comparing the key features of these assessment tools. And so we looked at the activity, testing frequency, the duration, and the reporting focus. And you see going across the MAP and the STAR, they're both fully adaptive. So as soon as they take those tests, the tests will change. So if they're getting answers correct, they will continue to get harder answers. As soon as they miss an answer, the test will start to adapt to them until they find out where their current testing ability is or current curriculum-based measure is. With the MAP being 2 to 3 times a year, the STAR being 4 to 6 times a year, MAP is a little longer in duration as far as the tests, 45 to 60, where STAR is 15 to 30. They do both produce growth over time, with the STAR being a little more focused towards skill mastery. IXL is an adaptive practice as well. It's ongoing testing because it's more skill-based. Each of the time they sit down and take a diagnostic test, it's 20 to 30 minutes. And it is about skill progression. And then the mind prep for learning is something completely different than the other three. It's cognitive based, once a year, an hour duration, and it provides a cognitive profile of the students. So MAP and STAR. Yeah, MAP provides data on student growth over intervals and is predictive of statewide testing and outcomes. Got a short little video here for you. Works.
Math growth is an assessment measuring achievement and growth in K-12 math, reading, language usage, and science. Administered 2 or 3 times each school year. Its results help educators understand how their students are performing academically and how they're growing over time. Math growth was created by NWEA, a mission-driven organization founded by teachers and researchers committed to student learning. Today, more than 12 million children around the globe use Math growth. The test is available in English and Spanish and includes numerous accessibility features to help every student demonstrate their progress. Here's how Math growth works. Prior to the test, students do not need to do any studying. Their score is based on what they know now. The test is adaptive, which means a student's test adjusts based on their responses. If a student gets a question right, the next question is harder. If a student gets a question wrong, the next question is easier. This means each student gets a personalized test experience designed to identify their achievement level, independent of their grade or age. This helps educators understand where their students are on their learning journey. While the tests are untimed, each one typically takes about 45 to 55 minutes to complete. Immediately following the test, Math growth produces a grid score. This is not a formal grade. Grid scores help educators measure and track performance from season to season and year to year, identify students who may need additional support, and create personalized learning paths on dozens of popular supplemental curriculum tools. Math growth also provides achievement and growth norms. Norms give educators the context they need to understand how their students' performance compares to other students across the U.S. With this information, teachers can help students better understand their strengths and opportunity areas and motivate students to pursue ambitious goals. To learn more about Math growth, visit nwea.org to find resources for educators and families.
And the next one I looked at was the STAR. Again, STAR was shorter, more frequent assessments. These two I'm comparing together because they do have a suite of assessments that go with them as well. So they're quite a bit more adaptive than IXL as an example.
So what is it like? Recon is an all-in-one productivity software where you can manage everything and anything.
Get the data you need today to prepare all students for tomorrow. With STAR assessments, you'll assess students in reading, math, or early literacy. Review results immediately after testing, plan personalized instruction, and set research-based goals, all to help you confidently guide students' growth. Answer essential questions related to screening, progress monitoring, standards mastery, state proficiency, instructional planning, and growth. Backed by over 100 studies and highly rated by the National Center on Intensive Intervention, educators trust STAR assessments to provide actionable and accurate data about student performance and growth. Renaissance STAR assessments use the power of computer-adaptive technology backed by strong learning progressions to provide highly valuable information in less than 20 minutes. This means you spend more time teaching and less time assessing without sacrificing the critical data insights you need to inform instructional decision-making. When educators have accurate predictions of student performance, they don't just get to see the future, they have the power to change that future. By using STAR data along with all the other information known about a student, teachers can help each student master new skills, close learning gaps, and accelerate growth, so they're motivated to learn today and better prepared for the future. Educators in more than 1/3 of schools nationwide rely on STAR data to inform instruction to ensure all students are on the path toward future success. Experience the purposeful, proven, powerful, and predictive qualities of STAR assessments that provide the insight needed to maximize student growth.
So the IXL, just a reminder that it's more of a practice tool for students for the short periods of time and actually skill building. So it's continuous practice, is aligned with its content standards. And especially with skill gap filling, reinforcement for academic areas.
Welcome to IXL. In this video, we'll show you how to get started. IXL is a learning program designed to help you practice what you learned in class and review things that will help you grow. Sign into IXL by typing in your username and password in the upper right corner of the page. Or your teacher may provide directions for how to access IXL using a single sign-on. After you sign in, you'll be taken to your dashboard. This page has a bunch of fun skills just for you. Skills and quizzes from your teacher will be in a list with a gold star next to them. You can filter the list by subject or for quizzes to help you sort through it. You'll also find some fun skills that we recommend based on your personal practice. Here's what practicing an IXL skill looks like. You'll see the name of the skill you're practicing, the question the skill is asking you, and where to answer. Next to the question, you may see a blue speaker symbol, which you can click to hear the question read aloud.
Martin made a three-dimensional figure out of wood.
In the bottom right corner, you may also see a pencil. Clicking that will bring up the scratch pad, which will let you make notes on the screen. On the right side, you'll see the number of questions you've answered, the amount of time you've spent practicing the skill, and your SMART score. The SMART score represents how well you understand the skill. When you get a question right, it goes up, and the question will get a little harder. If you get it wrong, it drops a bit. Then you'll get easier questions to help you review. Mistakes are okay. After making a mistake, you can use the explanation to learn how to answer that question. Once your SMART score reaches 70, you'll start earning proficiency ribbons. Keep raising your SMART score to earn more ribbons. If you're practicing a new skill or need a quick review, IXL has a few resources to help you. At the beginning of a skill, you can click Learn with an Example to see a full sample question that walks you through how to solve it. Some skills also have video tutorials where a tutor will explain the concept behind the skill and show you strategies for tackling it. As you practice skills, you'll earn fun virtual prizes for your hard work. Want to see something cool? After you earn a prize, you can make it your IXL avatar to customize your profile. Now you're all set to get started on IXL. Have fun and happy learning.
Class or so.
What does it be successful? The bigger question is how to do that is challenging. What makes it a whole lot easier? What provides teachers insights into how each student learns best and which instructional strategies will be the most beneficial. Every student's mind criteria begins by measuring their performance and cognitive skills through online puzzle-like tasks. The experience takes approximately 1 hour on any computer or program and is completed once every 3 years. What's next is the game-changing data that will enhance teaching and learning in every class. Dashboard, make it easy to see trends and strengths and needs across the class, the grade, or even the whole district. MindGrid integrates with any academic achievement data, so teachers can readily differentiate instruction in ELA, math, and study sets. Each student's MindGrid profile enables teachers to provide individualized support if and when a student needs it. MindGrid reports don't have quantitative scores because no student can be reduced to a number. Our student program is designed for students to celebrate their strengths and find the strategies they need to be successful in any situation. Join the growing community of MindGrid partners and schools who are helping teachers and students rediscover the joys of learning.
All right, so quite a bit of difference between the MindPrint. As far as taking us in a completely, I think, different direction. And then IXL just being a lot around building skills, and it's really classroom based, not a lot of data would be available as far as growth from the student from beginning to end. Whereas then MAP and medicines is that growth can be used at the classroom level to inform instruction, but also simultaneously give us data at the district level and the building level. So those two are quite a bit more similar. Renaissance has got a whole suite of assessments, so something that you can really grow with. MAP's got a whole suite of supporting applications for students, depending on if it's math or reading, to really grow with as well. The other piece I wanted to bring up with this, that some local districts are diving into as well, but I think it's of interest to me anyways, student education. Student is a company that comes in and helps align for strategic planning in year 1. In year 2, they come in and develop scorecards and help you align with scorecards, and they begin professional development with administrators around what they call rounding, and rounding is something that's taken from the hospital to where doctors do the rounds and talk with patients, and so they take you through a process also of rounding. Biggest thing is really about the alignment of targets between the district level, down to the building level, down to the teacher level, and then eventually all the way down to the student level as well, which does align also with our students' profile, the learning profile we're working on. They help develop the scorecards, and so those are actionable measures that you develop. And we'll send that all the way down. A short video on student as well. So what you're seeing here is actually a marketing video that they've got. So this is the superintendent of the school district that was using it. And I believe this is in, yes, lessons from year 1.
Our story a little bit, and we've been journeying through the enrollment process that has been over the past few years. We did start 3 years ago with bringing together stakeholders and setting up strategic plan pillars based off of what feedback that came from them. And hearing that, we really came down to 4 strategic pillars that we've been focused on as a district. And we got to the point where we started thinking what we can do with those pillars besides just have them available to look at on our website and to talk about every so often, and how do we really live these pillars, and how do we live that mission, which is empowering the whole child to be successful in college and the world. And we saw that well, some of the keys were a process besides the strategic plan, but having scorecards that keep us as department teams and as site level teams keeping track of the progress towards those action steps that we're taking. And then DSA also became a big part of what we're aiming to do as a district, is kind of that concept of being continuously improving the plan, do, study, act cycle. And then we really see it as key as we think through it, is that coaching and leadership development happens throughout the entire process. And we are very lucky to be able to partner with student education and have that coaching and leadership development along the way, because that helps us
continue to progress in our areas of growth, which really come down to how do we make a scorecard? So our scorecard progression didn't come out looking amazing at first. It was kind of our first shot at it was a district scorecard, was putting some goals down. Like, what are some goals we want to have? What are some growth goals? What are some goals that we want to have in our survey responses? And then we had a unique pillar, which was improvement, efficiency, and innovation. How does that look with our plan, do, study, act cycles that are happening? And then through some progression, we realized that our scorecard wasn't necessarily leading to us tracking that progress as well. So with some help of fellow partners, we did get to a scorecard that really this year has some progression progress. So our 2023-24 scorecard has a way to track those numbers and have conversations around them and see did we really succeed with some of those goals. And we found there was a really big split between not just academic goals or not just progress in academics, but we saw that those surveys were very important to, rather than us just kind of saying, I think we did pretty good. We were able to start thinking through using some of those employee experience survey, caregiver survey, and really see some progress being made and knowing how we're really doing through that. The site and the department scorecards also came this year. So we have a total of 19 scorecards, the 9 sites and 10 departments. And they're all working towards action steps that are leading to progress, hopefully that they're aiming for on their scorecards that all connect back to our pillars. So through that, there's the public facing school site scorecard that's connected to pillars, but then there's also our department or site department scorecards. And I have an example here on the poster from one of our sites, and each quarter we kind of do a quarterly review of our scorecard and we put new strategic actions down, but we spotlight our strategic actions from the quarter before, say we're making progress, green light, we're making progress, we succeeded in that, kind of that adaptive adopt abandon cycle. Red would be that we didn't quite get there, or maybe we want to abandon it and start a new goal as we start thinking about our next quarter. We did find along the process, as I mentioned earlier, that tracking survey data was a huge factor in our scorecards. So half of the information on our scorecards leads back to our survey data, because it's not just about how we're scoring set academically or about how we're scoring on a test or a score. It's how our education partners see how our services are provided to them. So it's definitely, I think the survey data is one of the biggest key factors we have, which we have in the fall and the spring. And then when we start thinking about PDSA being one of those huge goals that we have, is how do we continue to make sure we're making progress, not just tracking on the scorecard. Like, so we saw department PDSA, so our departments are working on one thing, and 20% of their time that they dedicate towards something they want to get done, and using a PDSA tracker form that's pretty simple. What are we trying to solve? What's our plan? How are we going to do it? And then are we going to adapt, adopt, abandon, move forward? And then we have our grade level teams doing that as well, our content teams at the site level doing it on every Wednesday. We have a plan time for PDSA that they're working around one of those goals that leads back to our scorecards. Much of it goes from reading or literacy that we have as focus, as well as math. And then what we're working on currently, and this is kind of a work in progress, is our student level PDSA, so that we kind of have that full circle, department, grade level, and student levels, and students tracking of progress, which might be an example I have on the poster might be their writing goal, or it might be their Spanish, how they're using their Spanish fluency. Those pieces all lead back once again to the grade level PDSA, back to the scorecard and at the site level. And finally, some of the key factors we found as us moving forward is our audience behaviors rounding 2 times per year has become something that is very important to us to make sure, not just from our surveys, but we're getting it from those that directly report to us, the information that helps us improve. It feeds our PDSA, it feeds our action plans. Our scorecard development quarterly view of stoplight is something that's always done, and those PDSA cycles are very important to continue to make sure we move forward. And the last one that kind of comes to mind is the cascading communication, intentional cascading through huddles, and then it becomes through strategic meetings that happen, and making sure we really have a communication process that involves school board to the cabinet to the staff, and ultimately ultimately gets to the community. So that gives you a little bit of an idea of our progress that we've made in our scorecard journey. We've still got progress to be made. We haven't seen through a final scorecard quite yet at the end of this year. See how that progress really looks as we shift to a new year, and also how we look at our student level PSA and continue to grow that, because that's 4,800 different improvement cycles running with our students that take us to another level. So we're looking forward to that. So I thank you for your time, and definitely feel free to reach out if you have any additional questions.
So then, the sharing studer, for me, kind of helped bring the whole thing together as far as the work that we've been talking about with coming up with goals. And then it takes it down actually into, I think those actionable steps from how do you go from a school board development goal to a building development goal, down to a teacher development goal, and making it all the way down to the learner profile we've been working on. And then I think where the assessment systems really come in is that actionable data and having that at our fingertips. So I really see these things working well together. So anyway, the map and the star, those are long-term growth tracking. They align with our district goals via Studer's evidence-based leadership. Would be that connection for IXL. Those are those provides that actionable skills-based insights. Really don't feel like the IXL though is what we're looking for. It's more just a classroom based application. And then the mind frame again takes us in really much different directions. It doesn't provide the quantitative data. We're looking at students' personalized learning plans. Benefits. So data-driven goals, again, would be the map and the star. For some instructional consistency, I'm starting to look at the IXL, especially the mind frame again is more of the like along the lines of a learner profile. And not necessarily quantifiable data out of there. And then the accountability comes with the student monitoring around the strategic planning. The other thing with students is they do provide survey material for us. So you can either use their surveys or you can use your own survey or a combination of questions from their survey. And then those become part of your regular review process as well. It's the surveys. So including here, I think moving forward is just remember that assessment systems provide critical data for us. Growth, skills, learning styles, the student education will align district goals and facilitate data-driven decision-making, provides administrative professional development and support. Together, the tools fosters continuous improvement and personalized learning in the district. So the slides that I presented was just meant in the videos to emphasize the strengths of each tool, expanding how they work with student education and then to support district alignment, student growth. Recommendation. So the student education, we can utilize some Title II money to actually get started on that pretty quickly, probably second semester. It falls in line, I think, really with where we're at as far as goal development and the strategic planning with the school board. The further exploration, I think the one thing that I come across, there's another district, Junction City, that has just adopted the Renaissance. They're in their first couple months of starting that system. They're actually replacing their DIBELS. Actually, they're using CBM instead. So we use DIBELS for our 3 times a year progress monitoring for reading. STAR's got similar process as well. So it'll be a nice all-encompassing assessment system for us. But I really feel like STAR's got a product that a district can grow with because there's a number of systems, assessment systems that are available. It offers not only the assessments in English, but also in Spanish, and it will correlate the two for you. And there's just lots of room to grow with the STAR innocence as well. Thoughts, questions? Jennifer got to see a couple of these in action, got to see a little bit of the, I think the Bethel School District and Esteta School District are 2 of the districts close by. They're using the student for their strategic planning. Bethel School Board did a presentation at the OSBA conference on it. Thoughts, alignment.
With the star in the map, is it, like, as soon as the kiddo's done with the test, you have the information, is it that fast? And then, is there data input into Studer that would need to be done, or do the systems talk, or?
They do not, and the Studer is not necessarily the electronic system, as much as a
Paper
strategic.
scorecard?
Yeah, as much as strategic planning. So they would help with, they essentially would come in and, in the conversation I've had with with our regional sales guy. And we've talked about the learning profile and the work that we're doing. They would essentially come in and take a quick assessment as far as where we are at and where we're headed. Compile that information for us and then work with us through a process of finalizing a strategic plan. From that strategic plan, then they would sit down and go through a goal development or what they call their scorecards. And then from the scorecards, is where they start to leverage those down to the building level, down to the student or teacher level, and down to the student level. And that's really kind of a year-long process of being able to do that. While that's happening, they also then have an individual that comes in and actually meets with the administrative team regularly, and then is also available for phone calls. And that's about those conversations. So if you notice the rounding, they do rounding 2 to 3 times. It was per month, per your direct report. So it's really those ongoing conversations with the individuals that you have direct relationships with your supervisory practice. And the conversations are meant to get to the questions as far as the strategic planning and those scorecards. And it's to build the relationships. They're really heavily towards relationship building. So that's less on the quantitative side and more on the strategic planning and alignment side. So it's like, I look at that as kind of a survey. If you go out and survey, it's always having an idea of like, what are you going to do with the survey results? And that's the alignment back to the scorecards. The same thing with data. We're going to look at data. Why are we looking at the data? The data is aligned back to what our goals are. At the district level, teacher level, obviously it's about informing instruction.
Brenna, you were nodding, have you used either of these?
I've used map and IXL. I used Renaissance and IXL.
Any,
Sorry, say that again.
I use the star system and I accept.
She's mad now. So,
any additions from?
I
having
really
used
liked
it?
the Renaissance system. I liked that it was K-12. I liked that it was reading and math all in one place. It had some really nice functionality around, kind of helping the team identify what like reasonable expected growth for a kid could look like in a year. Like based on their results, understanding like, you know, this kid's starting behind, they're not gonna be at grade level here, but where do I want them? Right, what is the minimum reasonable projected growth? And so that you can see, yes, I'm on that line, or like, no, we're not, right, you know, or I'm way ahead of it. And I think just kind of helped teachers really understand what growth should look like for kids. I really liked it.
Did you see it functioning at the secondary level? Well,
I didn't see it specifically, but in the district I was in, we used it at the secondary level and, I think it was as well received there as anything would be, so. It's always better at the secondary level, but, I think it functioned well. And again, I like that it had the reading and the math. That's really nice.
Are you thinking of this? You're signing up forever?
we're signing up forever.
Well, I'm just thinking of timings, not so much the cadet, but just philosophically, you're going down this road and there's no end to the road.
I would, so the strategic, the Studer as an example, it does not come with any contract. We could start it next month and by June say, not for us, and just stop services. Both Renaissance and MAP as examples, obviously the longer you sign up with them, the cheaper it becomes, the less it is per year. My suggestion would be this is really, I think, to look at the Renaissance Star, start to engage with staff. Send a group of teachers, for instance, to Junction City and talk with teachers in Junction City about what their role would look like. Talk with Renaissance about possibly starting a pilot program here. And depending on timeline, you know, we can probably still do our dibbles, but maybe we take a couple of grade levels before we run them through the assessment. Get a couple teachers actually looking at the data, and then come back sometime in the spring. Get a informed answer about the data systems. It would be a switch. I don't propose this. I don't propose jumping into an assessment system and keeping additional assessment systems as well. I think in that case, you never end up using one of your assessment systems very well. You can use one system there. Or no.
Guessing this stuff's not free.
No, Renaissance is about, from what I gather, talking to Junction City, I think they're paying about 15 a year for Renaissance. Studer is expensive. Studer can run as much as 15 a quarter. We can leverage some title, like I said, the title funds. So Title 2A, we've got about 24,000 carryover this year.
Is it by kid or probably?
The Renaissance is by license, by seat. So you buy a certain amount of seats. Yeah.
What's the cost of the math?
It's probably about the same. Yeah.
With that, we balancing out if we surrendered other assessment systems? Is it a big jump?
It would not. So we utilize two other software systems that's specific, I would say, to student learning and instruction. One of them is Lexia Core, and one of them is Reflex Math. Reflex Math is a math facts program. Lexia Core is more of a reading program. I think we'd have to, they're both meant to kind of supplement instruction, but they're not full scale assessment systems like this. Dibbles, we do not pay anything for, which it's a program that's been out for years, and we're using, I think you know better, the what year version?
We're on 8.
Yeah, what's that?
I believe we're on 8.
Yeah. About 8, okay. These are also, like, you can do a paper or you can do on the computer. So like, but it is much more user interface as far as entering data. With the Dibbles, we are full still entering data by hand. So a teacher will sit down with a reading copy and then hit that and they're actually the data. This was happening. There's a recording function where a teacher can go through and mark the system is reading. So it would be a big shift. It would take us from a 1990s system. That's what I was trying to figure out earlier.
Right around 1990. Yeah.
Into the 21st century. Yeah. So I guess what I'm going back to is we do not spend very much money on instructional software university. I think Lexi it's less than 5,000 a year. No,
Both Reflex and Lexia less than
less than 5 each. Yeah.
And would, I think Studer's still above my head, but would there like pillars end up being our 3rd grade ELA, 9th grade on track? Would those end up being the
Probably no. The pillars may end up be something that's more aligned with big ideas. So if you go back to his video, they were more big idea type of, see if I can bring this back up.
All right, so a big shiner scorecard was putting some really big, as department teams and as site level teams keeping track.
Seeing their pillar was around student success, employee management, engagement, family and computer partnerships, improvement, efficiency and innovation. And then within those, when you start to develop the scorecards, student success, then we have like our longitudinal targets and the ELA. Employee engagement, your scorecard might be about retention. It could be a survey also, so you might have initial data as far as a survey of employee engagement. And the same thing with family and community partnerships. These are really more holistic as far as survey information.
Do you see Studer as like really folding in and integrating our portrait of a graduate work and helping us drive that?
I do, except that's where I think is part of the, whether it's on the student success, for instance, it's probably where it's going to land. As you're thinking about like the student profile and the particular skills or attributes that we want a student to be able to have when they graduate. You know, we're developing that learning profile that lives right now at the district level and the building level. The strategic planning process and what that looks like then as it goes down is in year 2, when we start learning the learner profiles, they will start to actually develop the rubrics that will go to, say, by 3rd grade, we want students to be able to, you know, have, if communication is one of them, they should start to be able to write effectively, and we want to make sure they have, you know, 3 different styles of writing again. Maybe that's by 5th grade. By 7th grade, we want all students to be able to speak clearly, and they're going to start providing speeches as an example. And they'll have documentation to be able to do that. You know, by seniors, it might be more of a capstone process. So the Studer allows us, or the Studer process strategically aligns that so that when teachers are, for instance, working on an early release day and it's a teacher directed, we want their teacher directed day to be obviously fitting into what that strategic plan is, and they're working then on what the rubric would look like, or what they're planning for a grade level or a content area on how it is that we're going to get these attributes taught to students and how we're going to measure them and actually provide evidence that we've got them. And then obviously then that's where the learner profile comes into the students as well, all the way down to student level. I think Bethel is in their last year, I think, with Studer. I don't think they're planning on continuing with Studer after this year.
Is that because they're just continuing it on their own?
You know, I didn't know all the details of it, but I think part of it is yes, they've got to that point where the conversations with the individual that's working with their administrators directly, as I think run its course, they've got their systems in place. And a lot of their work they did on their own as well. So they already had a lot of strategic planning and processes in place, their surveys. They did their meetings with staff, with community members, the gathering of information and data, and then Studer basically helped them compile that and put it into a plan, strategic plan. And they've really been heavily involved in the rounding piece, since you know, the individual student will either come into the district or they will meet with administrators online and talk to them about. So it's also built around the 9 principles. That's got the market cell book. 9 principles. So the heart's called hardwiring excellence in education. That's a lot of what the rounding is about, and the professional development with the administrators, walking through the conversations with staff. And the 9 principles are really around engagement, quality.
So. Is this something the board is voting on, or are we just giving feedback?
Just feedback. I think, so when we left our last work session, we had an idea that assessment was one of the items that we wanted to look at least how do we get some more data? For me, I needed some more information from you guys as far as what do we mean, we're talking about data, and we're talking about assessment. So I think we're very prescriptive in what we're doing, and we don't end up a year down the road being disappointed in. Well, Jen thought one thing, you thought something else, I was going in a completely different direction. And so I think tonight is really the idea of like, I feel like able to give you a pretty broad view as far as what is out there in assessments. I think based on the feedback I've gotten and just in looking at the systems, I feel like Renaissance is a good place to really start if we start to get a little bit deeper and roll this out to staff, and that's just our staff, that's just like take a look. For you guys just to say, you know what, this is not what I was thinking. I was thinking actually something completely different. You know what, Jim, the mind prep actually looked pretty intriguing. Is that something we can, you know, get some more information about, or you know what, this seems right on as far as what we're doing. Let's get some information from your staff. It will be and this is not to say that our staff is not ready for something like this, but like I said, it is a big shift for 1990s assessment system with our DIBELS.
I think the star and the map are precisely what I had in mind.
Say exactly the same thing. The other two are less intuitive to me for sure. I'm guessing they're way more intuitive to you all. But you know, from assessment standpoint, that is sort of exactly.
I would also agree with that. And just from what I looked at and from my very limited knowledge of education, STAR would have been my preference. And I just want to clarify, when you're saying Renaissance, that's STAR, right? That's one of the.
It's one of their things.
Yes, Renaissance is big. It's got a big platform. There's STARS, their assessment system, and there's a number of sections in there. Junction City, I believe, is starting with reading and math. Grades K-8. The math, I believe that right now they're just looking at the growth like 3 times a year. With the reading, they're actually replacing Easy CBM, which is similar to DIBELS as far as curriculum assessment. And so they're actually replacing the Easy CBM with the STAR assessment. Reading them, but there's a number of assessments. That's why I say STAR is something that we could definitely grow into. It would be not something that we would start with everything. There's a little too much.
Can you guys hear me?
I do.
Yeah. Hi there. Yeah, this is good information. I mean, my biggest thing is just making sure there's not too many assessments for the kids, I guess, like 100 different things, and kids get burned out on that stuff. So if we're getting rid of other things as we adopt this, I'm for that. And I'm going to defer to, your best recommendation after reviewing them. You obviously know more than any of us do, but I like the direction you're heading, and as long as it's economical and doesn't cost ridiculous amount, I think it'd be good to take a step into a new direction. I also like the fact there's surveys and stuff. It's not just testing, which is helpful because sometimes some kids don't take the tests, or they are bad at tests, or whatever reason. So there's other options to get relevant data too. So that all sounded good to me.
Oh, good. The survey is something that would actually align to the student education. So it's a little bit separate than we wouldn't be surveying for quantitative data from STAR. And that was the tutors. I want to make sure that
There's clarification there.
Yeah, they are different. There is definitely room for, I think, the student to help us align. Strategically. From the board setting goals down to how those goals are then carried out into the actual classroom and the student level.
And you were saying that the student can incorporate a lot of the work the district has already done. And setting like the reporting we're having to do to the district. That just gets put into their assignment. We're not having to do something separate from those, correct?
No, and that is literally a almost kind of a work session model that come in, similar to the model that we went through with adding on to it, but similar to the model that we say we went through with Kristen with OSBA and developing the academics. Where they will come through and say, well, what are you currently doing? You know,
This is student you're talking about,
Yeah.
this is what they would do, okay.
Yeah, and then they help us come up with, say, for instance, those 4 pillars or those 3 pillars, and then start to develop working with administrators, teacher groups, and putting the scorecards together. Our district is obviously, I think you talked about 20-some groups, like 9 different buildings. The superintendent that was talking, and we're talking in a district much smaller. We probably would have, facilities, each of the buildings, and we might even split it into 3, elementary, middle, and high, we would have each of their own scorecards. And the district level scorecard, so much smaller scale, yeah.
So just to make sure we're all on the same page, you're recommending tonight that we do student regardless. But then you're wanting some more just feedback from the board on what to supplement that with in terms of these other assessment tools.
Yeah.
Is that accurate?
So student right now, we've got about $24,000 in Title II professional development money, essentially. That grant is being carried over. Student can help us, I think, in this next springtime, start that strategic alignment, which is the stuff that we're already doing. So if you think about bring a copy tonight, but I put together the plan that our equity lens. Portugal graduate would have a space for there as well, and the QR codes down below. That is essentially the direction that I was heading. Student would help us come in and actually, I think, better formulate and align that strategically from a goal setting process from the board. And if you think about that, when we sat down and we did our goal setting process, it's really kind of the first time that we've done this together. It was a little bit funky. We did have some goals come out of it. Stu would be much better than I am about driving that and getting some of those goals. So I'm thinking this spring would be a great time for us to reinvest some time and look into what that looks like, and they're able to come in and help me drive that.
So it would come in during the school board meeting as well.
We can set up time for them to come in, not necessarily through a school board meeting, but for instance, we might have a work session. What they will.
That's
And part of that is they will ask us for where we want to go with this. So some of it is, we've talked about doing surveys. So Chris is getting ready to do a survey again of the high school and middle school kids. We can implement a survey with our community, implement a survey also with our teachers and classified staff. And then we'll have that data then to actually work with, and we can actually start to come back to the school board with, here's the information as far as that we're getting out of the community. Here's your alignment as far as topics of what we're seeing as far as where services maybe aren't as good as where they should be, and this is where services are good. And they'll help drive that conversation for us. It's coming up with a strategic plan. And I brought them in because we were not only talking about, I think, quantitative assessment, but then the survey piece came up as well, engagement, and part of that is, when we go out and we survey without a purpose, it's about the worst thing that you can do, because people feel like I'm telling you what it is that they're asking for information, but I don't see anything on the backside of it. Stuart helps make sure that is aligned. It goes to a scorecard, so you can actually measure growth or actually see, and that's what the superintendent was talking about during those kind of quarterly meetings. How are we doing in our practices as far as providing services to our community or our students? And are we seeing changes in that as a regular, they'll come back and they'll survey again and say 3 times a year, 2 times a year, what they like. There is not necessarily a key-in program through survey, through student. They will come in and provide services that fit where we are at. And again, we are not signing a contract with them. We start and it ends up being March and we say, no, this is for us and like production will, which is really ended not like.
On me, I know there's a lot of steps between now and then, but implementation, like next school year, 2 school years?
For the assessment piece?
Yeah.
Yeah, so what I would imagine, so we walk out of here today and you guys say, you know what, Renaissance actually seems like that's a good place to start. I'm gonna start working with Chris and Brenna, Whitney around staff, starting to identify staff. Get their feel as far as how do you want to roll this out? Is it conversations with grade level leaders first, have them roll it out to teachers? But eventually what I imagine is getting 3 to 5 staff members across the district, jumping on our van, taking them to Junction City, have Junction City ready for us to set up to actually talk with teachers on their end. What was the rollout? Why did you change? What it looked like, allowing teachers to actually ask teachers questions about it. And that might be step 1. Step 2 might be, hey, our winter assessments are happening, in January. We're going to take our reading specialists and actually watch that take place. And they can actually sit down, perhaps side by side, and watch them actually provide the assessment and come back with information for us. For staff, I think they also need to know the kind of the why to this as well. So it gives us time to actually have a conversation with them. It's what we're looking for from the district and board level, as far as more systematic approach to making student growth and process and moving into the 20%. So I see that happening, January into early spring, and then coming back with that information, and possibly even having a couple of the teachers that to come in and give you some feedback. So what they go. Great. And even depending on how quick it goes, so you think best case scenario is staff loves it, they're ready to jump into it. We set up a couple of them and started to do just a pilot program. They pilot it, they still love it, and then they're ready to go next fall. Yeah. There's I briefly asked questions, sometimes hard to get the good answer from a salesperson. But so far from what I've been told is the amount of work on our end, like our IT work, as far as making our systems speak, so our Synergy and Renaissance align is very limited. Most of it is on their end. This data also will connect with our Oregon data suite that we use, which is our dashboard, so we can have information into one spot. So it connected that as well. It's supposed to be a fairly easy lift. Was it Xamarin?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty intuitive, pretty user friendly, some nice graphs. It has some really nice graphical features. I think it's really nice when you can visualize data, especially when you're sitting trying to talk about a kid or teams, groups of kids. Some nice reports you could provide for parents that were pretty easy to digest. I like that.
Well, maybe you can speak to this, but for like our transitions, our 5 to 6 and our 8 to 9, will their whole profile will still be there, right? As far as, so it can be for scheduling or placement on it.
Well, that's something we're trying to really think about this year. Think about how we're using Oregon Data Suite and how we're tracking data, how do things roll from year to year, from building to building, and So, yeah, I think any place where we can leverage that thing follows the kid, that roll up piece is really nice.
And if you're interested, I can actually arrange to have Megan, the sales rep, come into one of our board meetings as well.
I think it would be more meaningful, like you said, to have our teachers come in, give us their thoughts, that would be a lot more meaningful to me, just a board member.
Her presentation is probably gonna be like.
The presentation. With the presentation, it starts, I mean, they're selling, right? So they've got a huge suite of assessments, and it's like going in to buy a car, and it's like, well, how much you looking to spend? You know, so it goes wide, and you don't really know what the assessment systems are, and so as you start having conversations, even though you start bringing the conversation in like this, it tends to just kind of widen back out. Oh, by the way, we can also do this, and we can also do that. And like I said, Junction City, I think we start reading in math. K-8. They're starting small. And a lot of that is price as well, cost.
Do they offer free pilots?
I don't see why they would not. It would only benefit them, but I have not gotten to that one conversation.
Piloting can be really powerful.
Yes, it can.
Answers a lot of questions.
Yeah, that's gonna be what sells me. It's rep coming in.
Yeah, I'd much rather hear.
It's an enormous upgrade, again, from. And even for Junction City to be going, so EDCBM. Their reading piece was still done pretty manually. We give the students, the script in front of them, and they read it, we mark where their errors are on the timer. However, their math and their comprehension was all done on the computer and was automated. We don't obviously have curriculum-based measure tests for math or comprehension in our district, and we just do the reading. There's really kind of an updated process as far as collecting it, and end up touching it a couple times. As far as collecting it and having to find somebody to go and enter the data in, versus collecting the data as you're doing it. It's automated. I can imagine the staff would be thrilled, but things change is hard.
Yeah.
It's always.
So if we're good with the Renaissance, we'll start that conversation about what it looks like for staff, and we start looking at. I think Junction City is going to be in a great spot as far as just starting this implementation and getting some good honest feedback.
Does anybody have any concerns about that plan?
Not at all.
Like Jim was saying earlier, just to make sure we don't get to May and it's like, wait, what?
Doesn't sound like we take yourself in any corner. Get a chance to taste, you're not necessarily at the solo. That sense.
Thank you. I mean, we decided this 2 months ago, and here we are making decisions, so
Yeah.
I'm impressed.
Potentially looking at having assessments start by next fall. Like a whole, like, obviously, we could probably do something like Junction City, but still having that kind of information. For the board to, I mean, obviously, it's gonna be extremely useful for everybody in the district, but comparing that to the dibbles and just the letter grades. Stuff that we're getting, I think would be a lot more meaningful.
Sure.
And sustainable, like John's talked about, well, let's start down this path and then do something different 2-3 years down the road. So something that, do the same thing.
Yeah, definitely want to be mindful we don't jump into something. So when you change, it's an investment. I mean, change is a huge investment. Yeah.
Drew, did you have anything else? Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here. Yeah, I think it's a good plan. I look forward to hearing feedback from the teachers and staff on their thoughts. And and see what, I mean, it all sounds good now, but we'll see what the actual users, think is the big thing for me, I guess. But yeah, no, it sounds like a great place to start. Looking forward to it. I'm gonna, I was glad I got to attend this part, but I'm gonna go ahead and log off for the rest of the meeting. I trust you guys.
Good, feel better, Drew. Have a good night.
Yeah, thank you.
Go in with.
It's just with anything new, I worry about the administrative burden of it. And the burden upon the staff, having to deal with it and weighing that against the benefits received from the information.
That is it's a systematic change that we're going through, with the exception, I think, of, when we think about our reading assessments and using reading data to group kids and to diagnose, provide instruction at that level. The biggest change is we start looking at adding on a similar structure for math, and putting that into an elementary school. It's already doing that for data. For reading is easy. At the middle and high level is then, another starting to stretch as far as how to use this information and data to actually inform your instruction in your classroom. And that's, what we've been working on, is looking at individual students and individual student growth. That's part of the conversation we've had about what's driving some of the assessment and data questions. Yeah.
So I'll just follow on the agenda here. That's, we just move on. Next actual board meeting, December 2nd here at the community center at 7 p.m. Thank you very much for all your work on this, Jim. I agree with Jen's sentiment that we covered a lot of territory in the short time since we had our brainstorming session coming up with goals. It's pretty exciting.
Fortunately, these companies like it. So, almost instantly send a message and they are almost ready to meet that day.
Your turn. Have a good night, everybody.